Rachel is moving. Is anybody else moving? All right, I'll ask you again because now everybody's paying attention. How are you doing this evening? Awesome, awesome. We are really excited and privileged to have an opportunity to celebrate a half centennial this evening.
Actually, let's be honest, we want to make fun of Marty for like the next 15, 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's true. I got a Facebook message from Kim and she said, Marty's having a birthday party, and I was like, that's cool. And she's like, will you come make fun of him? And I was like, I will be there. That's awesome. So we're going to do a little bit of a roast. Just know that about 85% of these things are said in love. And the other 15 are just an excuse to say the things we wanted to tell you for a while. And we're really stoked to just have an opportunity to do this.
We are. We're very excited. As a matter of fact, before we get started, Paul and I were talking, and we want to take a moment just to remember the athletic career of Marty Allen. All right, that was good. So, with that said, can we have Rachel come on up, and we're going to have our first roaster of the night. Let's give her a big hand, folks.
So I pulled all of these index cards out of an envelope I have marked emergency eulogy notes in case one of Dad's projects ends up taking them home. But I'm going to use them up right now. We'll expand on those. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time to expand on those. So 50 years. Against all odds, you are here, 50 years old, alive and kicking, as long as you don't kick too high or too fast. 50 years of handyman mishaps, playing harder than your age should allow, and teaching by example because we'd all rather watch you do something stupid than do it ourselves. And I won't blame it all on a lack of skill. No, the projects actually turned out pretty good once he removed the dangerous key. And some recovery. I blame it on statistics. There's only so many make it up as you go along DIY projects you can undertake before one of them overtakes you. I don't think I ever saw blueprints for anything that you ever made. You always made antibodies.
Blueprints?
We all know that you don't let anything go to waste. Once it's served its original purpose, many items can be reincarnated as something new. It might just take a few alterations, adjustments, a welder, maybe a few items out of the first aid kit, really a trip to the emergency room.
Thank you, electrical.
But it wasn't always you who got injured. And it wasn't always for reasons as productive as recycling old items into new ones. Sometimes you just wanted to press the boundaries of mortality because, hey, that's fun. Teaching us to ride tandem on a one-seated go-kart while doing donuts in an empty parking lot while you're supposed to be babysitting for mom. That was memorable, and Chris got a bag of M&Ms out of it after they scrubbed his road rash, so that's all good. It's not always blood, sweat, and tears with you. We had some good times while you helped me discover the physical limits of my body, clinging to the front elevated seat of a bass boat while you did U-turns trying to throw Chris off of an interview. I really love that boat, by the way, especially when you would start it under my window at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday. Or you'd do things with power saws at the same hour. I don't think you ever made anything but sawdust. I'm pretty sure it was just a high-powered electronic alarm clock. But you always had coffee waiting. Thanks for that addiction. Despite all the terror, gore, noise involved in my childhood, it was all positive. You taught me to work hard, play harder, don't be afraid of fun or making messes, but you better believe it's all getting cleaned up when we're done. You taught me a lot of things, not the least of which is how much better a honey bun tastes when you microwave it. And for that, I love you.
Yay!
I think it's always special when you end on a positive note. We want to highlight some of the positives about Marty as well. For example, the fact that now in this twilight of his life, he's getting into fostering.
Yeah, let's wonder what's wrong with the government on that.
As it turns out, he's also getting into dentures and pins.
What is good though is Marty has gotten into welding. Like, that's one of the things he likes to do. He welds everything, right? I mean, he'll weld trailers. He welded a guitar pedal board for me one time. I still use the thing. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but he does have an ulterior motive because at his advanced age, he's actually practicing to make a new hit. So, we'd like to maybe open up the microphone now for our next roaster. Have we got somebody in line, Kim or Rachel or if you feel compelled to come up and share a funny Marty story, we'd also love to have you guys come up. We just ask that you remember children are present, so that doesn't eliminate about half of the story. Okay, come on up.
Really bad.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I am one of Marty's brother-in-laws. He is a dear friend of mine. We've been through a lot together. I've learned quite a bit from my brother-in-law, how to deal with all sorts of emergency situations. One that comes to mind in particular was on a nice sunny weekend. At about 5:30 in the morning, they spent the night because Marty was helping me with the HVAC project. Well, he got up before everybody else and decided to go out in the garage unsupervised to continue on the project. Lo and behold, I heard everything, but just chose to lay in bed and let things play out. So our back door opens, and he ever so gracefully whispers, Kim, I cut the end of my thumb off. I need you to take me to the hospital. I said, you did what? That, among many other things, we have been through. One of my favorites involved my dog. Let me paint you a picture of my dog. He was 130-pound Nikita. He was a big, gentle giant. Marty works hard on everything he does, and he was helping us till up a garden. I kept our dog in a fenced-in section of our yard that was guarded by an electric fence. After several hours in the hot sun, tilling up the hard soil in the back, he had called my dog over to the edge of the fence. Just to love on him and pet him. And I watched as he had leaned over, and I wasn't even paying attention, but the fence was on. However, Marty, working in the garden, had these thick-soled work boots on, completely insulated from the ground. Now, Marty's attire was a heavy pair of work boots, socks, Daisy Dukes, tank top, loosely fit, a pair of work gloves, and I think even a sailor's cap, but that's for another story. He had taken his gloves off and reached over the fence and just grabbed a hold of my dog's scruff and just digging in, just loving him. The dog was grounded. As soon as his fingertips had penetrated that thick scruff, I seen them both dancing. My dog was going, and he was going, and I immediately reacted in defense of my dog. I'm like, what are you doing to my dog? And when he pulled away, he said, the heck with your dog? Look at this. His nipple is what came in contact. It grew an inch and turned purple. And it lasted for a week. My dear brother-in-law, we've been through a lot together. And there is much to be shared amongst all your friends. I could go all night long, but I won't.
There's still motorized wheelchairs.
I love you dearly, and I look forward to another 50 years.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, try going to sleep tonight with that image. I do want to thank Marty's brother-in-law. I think it's really great the fact that you are so close to that part of the family, especially considering the fact that, you know, as a younger man, you were dating Kim at such a tender young age.
We're really glad that North Carolina is really relaxed marriage laws. I mean, do you think he was robbing the cradle, or do you think she was robbing the grave?
Absolutely. Do we have anybody else that would like to share a story that doesn't involve inverted nipples? Oh, there we go.
Nothing like the sun coming out.
Yeah, you're in trouble now. This is weird.
Star from the go-kart.
I'm not good at public speaking or getting in front of people.
Obviously not me.
Just gonna share a couple stories about my dad. Like being asleep, trying to sleep in on a Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and mom running into the room screaming bloody murder. And I'm jumping out of bed, freaking out. What's going on? What's going on? And I look outside, immediately knew that he was okay, but he was completely knocked out, incapacitated. I see a trailer that he had just built. The tongue of it sitting straight into the air. And Dad flopped over into the yard, just completely knocked out by a trailer. I remember running outside and I checked on him, like, Dad, are you okay? He's coming to me. He was like, man, I thought I had it up weighted right, and when it came off, it just went right up there and knocked him out. That and I think so many. Yeah. Or seeing all of your dad when he slips and falls down the stairs after taking a shower. I'm in my bedroom and I say, thump, 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 thump. And I come around the corner because he's kind of moaning and he's just all completely laying out again, just robe wide open. I've seen my dad defy gravity as well. A couple times hanging out at Dana's house in front of the mall. Spent a lot of time out there and Dad doing projects and stuff. Had go-karts growing up that they always messed with and modified. And, saw him flip a go-kart up a hill forwards. Like I can't explain. Like when I try to think about it, it doesn't make sense how he did it. 'Cause he's going up this hill and I'm standing down at the bottom to watch him. He hits a rock or something that he flies through the air, flailing through the air, and I could
Don't tell your mother.
It's crazy. I think I'm 25 right now. My dad just turned 50, and I'm half his age. And I hope to accomplish some of the same things you accomplished as I age as well, man.
I think it's funny he's talking about how Marty defies gravity, because if you look at him now,
You can't.
Marty, I have a question for you, brother. Did you ever think that awkward nudity would be the theme of your birthday party?
No.
I do want to take a moment and share a story. Marty, and all of you guys who are here know this about Marty. Marty is, he's got a servant's heart. He's a type of guy, if you're in a pinch, he will help you out, even if he doesn't know how.
and he's violent.
He has helped me out a ton of times. I mean, whether it's car stuff or just, personal stuff in general. I was the youth minister for a long time at Catalyst Christian Church, and Marty volunteered his backyard for our youth group to have a cookout. And he had a fire pit back there. And you'd think the fire pit would be the source of consternation, but actually that went off without a hitch. But us and a bunch of teenagers in his backyard heard this hissing noise around his fence. And we turned, and Marty's like, "Oh, there's that possum again." And immediately took off like $100 bill was blowing in the wind after the possum. What's that? He left the fire pit, chases the possum, and then punts it like he's about to win the Super Bowl. And the possum had this beautiful arc. Then it hit the fence, and the last mistake the possum made was to turn around and posture one last time. It hissed at him, and Marty said, "Not at my house." Then he chased it again, and he kicked it, and for the rest of the night, with all these poor youth group kids, we had to unpack the concept of animal cruelty. having a servant's heart and
Being violent.
being violent in
Yeah.
the most creative and loving way. We love you. We just want to maybe open it up for any last roasts, any last stories here?
I've got more.
Oh, you have one more, so you'll have to save that
I'll
one.
wait. No, you can hit the phone.
Hello. Marty. There was a time that a bunch of us went to Gatlinburg. I don't know if you remember that trip. You may not have no recollection of that trip. Because, I think we may have made a pact there. It was like 7 families. We rented a cabin, and we were hanging out in the cabin, kids, lots of kids, and I think because Marty was there, we had to say what happens in Gatlinburg kind of stays in Gatlinburg. But I'm going to tell you, you're 50 now. I think it's all that's off. But I'm kind of nervous with Marty and a karaoke machine being so close because here we're getting ready to go out shopping. You know how you do it in Gatlinburg. We're going to go out shopping, walk the streets, and do this kind of thing. A bunch of us, and Marty's sitting on the couch, and he just starts packing them out. Man, he just loves singing, and he's singing to the top of his lungs. Stand by your man. He's into it. Tears are coming down his face, and he's like that. And it's like, all right, bring on the next one, bring on the next one. And it was rock and roll and country and all this, What's New Pussycat and all these things. And he was just singing. So we come back at lunchtime, and he's still singing. And he's singing, and he's sweating. And he just kept going. And we went back at him, we came back that night, and he's still singing and singing. And then it gets into the night, and he's still, and I'm not kidding, there's people here who can verify this story, am I right?
Yep.
Finally, he has back troubles, and we're sorry for that. So he takes pain pills for this. And what we discovered was the pain pills, he was taking 4 every hour. And I think he was supposed to take 1 every 4 hours. Something like that. The dude was not there. It was crazy. Crazy awesome. It's at 3 o'clock in the morning, when he's doing I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. It was good. Do you remember that? Oh, yeah.
Some.
Okay. We're roasting Marty. We should be applauding Kim. Come on. No, Marty, I love you. Servant's heart, always servant's heart. I have called Marty on many occasions, and he always knows what to do. Usually requires some explosives or something like that. No, you've always been. Another story, and this may not be funny, this is between you and me. Do you remember that time we were in my garage, and we were getting in the car, and we saw a deer run down the street? This is the middle of the neighborhood. Do you remember that? And we both look over the car, and we say, did you just see? Yeah, I did. And then we see this kid running after it, and then did you see that? Yeah, I did. And we go out and we look, and the kid is chasing this deer down the street. They go down between, and Marty goes out, don't chase that deer, he'll kick. But, oh, too late.
I think probably what attracted Kim to Marty was the fact that he's got just an impeccable sense of style.
Look at his hair.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys get a chance to really look at this picture?
You made a good blonde.
He looks like MacGyver with a Chico stash. Really fantastic look. I think you should bring it back.
Yeah.
He's got this one sweater that he always wears. It's
Paul, it's not a sweater.
why is it faded so much?
He's 50. Paul.
Sorry, man. It's the only gray hair I have.
Well, we do know that he did a great job raising one of the kids.
Yeah, we're gonna let you guys speculate on which one as Rachel comes back up. One more time for Rachel. Come on, let's be quiet right now.
This all day, you guys better come up with something. I'm serious. Okay, so I have a couple more. One of them is I got sent to school with a weapon one time. I got sent to school with a weapon and got sent to school to the principal's office with a weapon one time because I was not responsible enough to carry my house keys on a keychain. I had to carry my house keys welded to a metal rod. My teacher was not amused. She said, I cannot carry that to school. I cannot carry that. So they did come and they made him come and get it. So I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. But I've got that one and then I have another one.
So many.
The basketball. Oh, the possum is not the only animal that Dad has kicked. I got off the school
Kicked
bus.
your brother?
No, a couple of times. I got off the school bus coming home from school one day, and my dad tosses my pet parakeet into the ground and punts it. He informs me once I get home that it was already dead. But that's how he told me that my parakeet died, was to kick it into the street when I got off the bus. Thanks for that. And one more. We lived in a cul-de-sac. We grew up in a cul-de-sac. We had a basketball goal in front of our cul-de-sac. We had a basketball goal in our cul-de-sac that the neighborhood kids like to use. And he might just be turning 50 now, but he's had an old soul that hates redundant noises outside of his house for a pretty long time. And the bouncing and the bouncing and the bouncing and the throwing and the screaming and the yelling after bedtime was not something that he enjoyed. So he came outside one night with the neighborhood kids playing, and he said, if you guys don't quit playing with my basketball goal after nighttime, I'm going to cut it down. And they made the mistake of coming back. And my dad went outside and fired a chainsaw up and cut the basketball goal down in front of everybody.
Is your dad mad?
And I got asked that question, is your dad mad? I'm like, no, he's just like that sometimes. That's my dad, guys.
Immediately following the roast is going to be a group therapy session.
You know what I was doing with this guy this morning, don't you?
What's that?
We were out cooking. We were over at the church. We were cooking breakfast for a bunch of guys. You're not going to believe what he was in charge of making.
Bacon.
Bacon.
Yeah. In fact, Marty Allen cooks bacon just about every time you get a group of people together. This man is single-handedly responsible for the life expectancy of Kentuckians having dropped collectively by about 1,000 years. So,
Avery.
I think I'm in AFib right now. Do we have any other stories? Any other roasters? We may need to start a line. Everybody's like, I've got an animal cookie story.
This is another Gatlinburg. I'm hoping that you will remember this. Okay, all the teenagers would go to Gatlinburg, and they would go out, they'd go shopping, ride the go-kart, they'd go do all these fun activities, and we'd always have a cookout when we came back. Marty and my dad thought it would be a really brilliant idea to get in a freshly dumped garbage can and hide in it until the kids came back home. Well, those kids come back home, he's got Jeff or somebody has hot dogs or hamburgers sitting on the patio. Kids walk up the hill, my dad and Marty go, right out of the garbage can. Chris and my sister Rebecca start screaming. Jeff throws the hot dogs and hamburgers over the patio. And it was funny. We went another time, there was like turkeys running around, and he started chasing one. I don't remember if you all know that, but I remember everything about that. It never passes my mind about Marty. He's a great guy.
A lot of you guys know that Marty had military service, right? And I think what you guys maybe don't realize is the fact that if he didn't wear such incredibly thick-soled shoes, he probably wouldn't have made the height requirement. I think the standard Marine issue is a K-bar, and when he holds it, it's like a mouse holding a sword.
Who's next?
Who have we got?
Oh, no, right there.
There we go, come on up. It should be kind. Not too kind.
Kind of mean, actually.
knocking himself out again on our rehearsal dinner day. That was fun. The best Marty story I have that comes to mind is we were at Disney. Not World, it was like.
That hurts again.
So we're walking along and everybody's having a great time. We're talking, looking at all the sights, that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden we hear. Oh no! We look back. Marty has walked straight into a pole sticking up out of the ground.
My defense, it was only waist high. That must have been a very short pole. It almost knocked me out.
Yeah, almost lost consciousness from the pain, I believe. Hit him in a special area. And funny, believe it or not, that's what actually happens when we're walking in a group almost anywhere. Yeah, I think that's about all I got. I'll stop saying it.
We really just want to thank Marty and
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This isn't funny. This is something really sweet. So, I'm a terrible cook. Can't bake. My poor husband. So, I decided to make no-bake cookies one day with my mom. And I don't really like the taste of peanut butter very much, so I decided that I was going to make them without the peanut butter. I was just going to make chocolate no-bake cookies. Okay? So, I got them all prepared and I put them in the fridge, and Marty goes in there and scoops one off the pan. He's like, "What are these supposed to be?" I'm like, "Oh, they're supposed to be no-bake cookies." He's like, "You didn't do something right." So we didn't mention it again for a while, and then comes back in the living room a few minutes later, and he's eating my no-bake cookies with a spoon out of a bowl. They're all in a bowl. Was eating with a spoon. And I said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I think he left out the peanut butter." Yeah, I think you're right. He said, "But you know what? They're the best darn tasted no-bake cookies I've ever had."
Aww.
What did you bring the no-bake soup? No-bake soup.
I tried.
This oatmeal and chocolate chip.
We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I'm sure there's a bunch more stories, and that's why we're all sitting at tables, because I'm sure there's also stories that you guys didn't want to tell on a microphone in the presence of children. But make sure those stories get out, because honestly, it's part of why we love you, man.
Yeah. There was actually a friend of his who's a minister, I believe you said it was in Memphis, Tennessee, who wanted to make sure before we handed the mic to Marty that we share with you guys one of Marty's favorite sayings, and that's that Asian boys need love. Give it up for Marty!
In my defense, Kim and I used to host exchange students, and we took this exchange student that said he could speak English clearly from Korea to a men's retreat at Gatlinburg. Oh no, it was a Promise Keeper. And he thought it was kind of weird to have a bunch of men sleeping in the same beds. You know, same room. And so we all snuggled up to him. He got really, really scared. Man, I love all of you guys. And if there's anything I can say about being 50, it's that God gave me the grace to live this long, to enjoy all of you guys. And my stupid feet. And my lack of knowing Him till so much later in my life. I have, so many of you have been in my life so long, even as long as I've been in Kentucky for almost 20 years now. Actually, it was 20 years last year. And I'm getting to know new people in my life group at home, and so many of you are such close family members, I can't even explain how much you mean to me. My only downfall is I'm not real good about showing it, and that's usually why I feel like that's why I am a servant, because that's my love language. And I'm so grateful for y'all to be here. I can't explain it to you. It's just, it's really, really awesome, and I'm
hoping everybody gets to enjoy some cake and visit a little bit. I know everybody's probably getting a little tired and hot, but thank you so much for being here.